for joining us today, Massimo. Please take the mic and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hello, everyone. My name is Massimo Crippa, and I'm an Italian guy living in France and working in Belgium. So I'm a little bit lost between in countries. I started working in 2001 in a consultancy company. Yes, I'm in the consultancy business since then. I'm working mainly with Microsoft technology, or I would say 100% with Microsoft technology. So before more on-premises kind of technologies, and then we moved to the cloud. So that was my first 10 years of career. I saw really a lot of different kind of technology. I started with front end, then I moved to the back end. At the time, it was a plus component on IIS. It was ASP pages before ASP.NET came, and then I did a lot of SQL and SSIS. I enjoyed it so badly. Then there were the wave of SharePoint. I somehow hated it.
Yeah.
And then there were my lovely story with Bistock. And then I moved from Italy to Belgium in 2011. When the cloud trend was emerging. It was at the beginning. And then I moved to Belgium because I wanted to, let's say, to operate in a market that was more open to cloud. And Netherlands, Belgium, and Nordics, they were, let's say, running together with the cloud. They were more,
Faster. Yeah.
let's say, they want the first jump into this wave. So I moved to Belgium and I joined Codit, and since then I'm working with Codit, and in Codit I did different things. I started with integration architect. Then I led the API management domain. So we were a lot of years in API management space. Then I start leading the application innovation, and since 2020 I'm lead architect. So long story at Codit.
But you are in Belgium,
So
or are you in Italy?
that's a good question. So I'm living in France. I'm working for
Okay.
Belgium, and I am Italian. So, but I'm not living in Italy since a long time. Yeah.
Okay.
So where are you located at the moment in France?
So I'm located in a city called Tours. It's in the Loire Valley, Valley de la Loire. So where there are a lot of castles and wine, these kind of things.
So nice views from your window, right? Or
Not bad. There are no castles, but the view is not bad.
we don't have castles, but we have
Yeah.
new buildings.
Yeah, it's a new building in the city.
Yeah.
Yes, Gothenburg is nice somehow.
It is nice. It is nice. But speaking of this, I mean, this international. You are from Italy, living in France, working with the Belgian. Can you tell us a bit about this? I mean, it's not so far if you talk about a global scale, but you talked about it was a big difference from maybe the Italian way of thinking of the cloud, and now you move to the northern up to actually come closer to the cloud. But can you tell us about these international differences and what you're thinking?
Okay. Let's say that working in Italy and in Belgium, Netherlands, let's say, so technically, or Norway, technically, I believe is the same in the sense that we have all access to the same technologies. Every country has brilliant minds, etc., etc. So that's it is very easy to do business and build a nice solution for our customers. And also, I believe that the dynamics in big enterprises or in small customers are also the same. So this technology and business is very similar, like the needs of this kind of customer, big or small. What I believe is extremely different is the cultural approach to business.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so for example, I what I loved of my all my experience in Belgium, or let's say center and north of Europe, is like a kind of very direct approach, kind of American style approach. While in Italy, culturally, starting from school, we are really used to dedicate a huge amount of time to the context, to go to the point from A to B. I think it's coming from school, and yeah, we are just explaining. Sometimes, most of the time, over explaining is not. It's because it's the way we grew up, the way we arrive eventually to the point, but with too much.
Yeah.
But it's more chill way also to approach things, I
Yeah.
think.
It's
Yes and no. If you look in the business, if you compare an email that is coming from an American colleague or an email that is coming from an Italian or a French as well, the Italian email is way more formal, like the French one. The American thinks, I need this point. So my bullet list, and not a lot of things. So maybe I don't want to say that everyone is like this or we are like this, but from a cultural point of view, the way that we approach and sometimes the style of management is also very different. So it's more
Yeah.
cultural than technology related, let's say.
yeah. But we talked a lot of I mean your introduction, and I mean now also. But can you explain what you do when you don't think about technology? What do you, Massimo, do when you don't think about
When I don't think
this
about
this
technology,
technology?
I am extremely busy with two girls. So
Yeah.
I'm a father of two girls in a young age. So they are 3.5 and 6. So I can tell you
Okay. Yeah.
they really keep me busy.
A lot of work.
They make me. I think that almost all of my gray hair. Okay, 50%. I don't know, let's say 30% from my wife, 70% from my kids. So
And it started 3 years ago or 5 years ago, the gray hair, or
yeah,
no?
yeah. Before kids, I was completely black.
Okay.
That's a good app.
Yeah.
I kept losing the hair. I don't know how it will go, but yeah, soon it will be no hair at all. Wish to have a
All
great.
from the kids.
Yes, the last guest we had, someone you know, it's Pestok Bill, and he asked you a tricky question. Actually, I am interested to hear your answer about that. We have logic apps and we have functions, and both can be used to solve almost the same problems. And there is like low code and there is more code in each of them. But what is the correct way and what scenario to use them? Which scenario is the right scenario to use? Which of them?
Yeah. Okay.
When to use what?
Good question, and I'm
Simply.
gonna answer in a sneaky way or a shady way. Like the question is, why only limited this question to only logic apps, functions? There are a lot of other way to do integration. Like you could do, if you just only say stick of technology, you can use Azure Container Apps. You can go on and all the way and mainly you could also say, what about visual workflow versus code workflow? Like last year, I think around last or 2023, Dapr Workflow was introduced. Why could I use Dapr Workflow as engine and using Logic Apps adapter or connectors as to do integration? So I believe that integration can be done in really a lot of different ways. So enterprise application integration most of the time is done using logic apps for companies where visual workflows work. So at the end of the day, let me use this very business sentence. We have to bring value to our customer, right? So I don't
Yeah.
care about the tool, just like whatever tool fits the customer need, whatever tool at the end of the day deliver the value. So when you look like function and logic apps, most of the time function when it's used with logic app is to externalize, business logic and all of these kind of things, because you want
Yeah.
to have more control. One gives you more control than the other, but also Azure Function. I mean, I always say to people, there are two reasons to choose for logic function. For Azure Function. One
Yeah.
is the serverless scale model, and the second one, or maybe the first one, is the framework, the binding framework that that Azure Function brings to you. But you can achieve the same with Azure Container Apps if you prefer containerized environment and containerized technology. So Again, it's there are a lot of ways to do the same things. The added value of logic apps are, according to me, the number of connectors first, and the second things, all the monitoring that comes out of the box
Yes.
from this workflow engine. So if you just jump, to give you an example of what I was saying, with Dapr Workflow, and then it's a far west over there. So there is no user interface to manage this kind of workflow, or not yet, or maybe it's there since yesterday, and I'm not aware. So sorry, everyone, if it is the case. But
Yes, it's the maintainability here is also, and the scalability, because if you want to add more functions or take away something, the scalability in the logic app I think is more it's more flexible, because you can do way more things and change a lot of small components. And for the function you will need to go in more deeper, I think, to change one small thing, and the scalability here gonna be an issue, in my opinion.
But and if we just dig a bit deeper in this question, I mean, I want to elaborate a bit about who is responsible for actually making the decision. I mean, we have the business, and then we might have an enterprise architect, and then we have solution architect, and then we have developers. I mean, in what level should the decision be made?
It all depends in which environment you are. If you are playing in an environment where already some technology decision has been standardized, you have to adhere to the standards that you find. If you are in a green field, or let's say where you have full freedom, over there, what I always say, that we have to stick to the key principle, whatever are the key principles. So when you design a solution, you identify whatever principle makes sense for the customer. If the principle are scalability, some unit of deployment, unit of scale, or what else, or security or isolation. So whatever things are make sense for the customer, those should be the driving factor for your decision. So I would say that normally which technology to be used belongs to the, let's say, solution architect. Normally is not the enterprise architect, except, as I was saying, if some technology stack is enforced to you by whatever security decision that the company took, security or other kind of factor decision that has been taken by the enterprise.
And that's where innovation needs to take also, because you get requests and then you need to deal with what you get and make the best out of situation, business process, and all the maybe budget you have. You cannot spend this much amount of money to scale. There is a lot of things here.
And I always like as you were talking about the freedom also here, if you have a green field, but also the freedom of not closing down how to say, a creative mind. I mean, to close them down to a specific technology. Sometimes you need to do it, but it can also be it can be dangerous, but also it can also be dangerous with too much freedom in this question.
Yeah, exactly. But also that's like when sometimes in the business, now we've been talking that I've been in a lot of things, so sometimes also weird things happen, and weird requests comes from the business side, or from the maybe another security person or another developer, architect. So what was the weirdest unusual integration request you have ever had?
If I think to the weirdest things that I ever did is not related to integration, but it was a long time. I just mentioned to you 2 seconds because it was a long time ago, and I still every time I bring up in a conversation with friends, it was a filter for ISA server, and it was something it was an endpoint security a lot of years ago. So, and it was so weird. So they asked me to do something in C, or it was C or C++, and I have no clue what it was. And so that's why I still remember as things that should never do something that is I don't know, 300 miles out of your comfort zone. So just but okay, that was the weirdest ever. If you go to integration, the weirdest tool I used ever for sure was Beanstalk 2002 or 2000. Now I don't recall it. So I go way back in the time before the .NET things, before the 2004. That was the real rework. I
Yeah,
was very
yeah,
young,
exactly, yeah.
and I worked with something that I had no clue what it was, what it was doing, which kind of. I was clicking around, trying an error. At that time, there were no documentation. It was just the old style paper things. So it was, sort of.
When it comes to Bistock, when it comes to Bistock, there is still people that's wondering what it does until
Yeah.
today, I
But
think. Because you have
you are
yeah.
right, but like with the 2004, then 20, now I don't recall, 2010, etc., that
Yeah.
latest bespoke was, I believe, very well organized and structured from a technical point of view. So the couple, adapter, pipelines, was, I believe, very well from an architecture point of view built. So congratulations, Microsoft.
Yeah. I never seen the old version, so I am a person who got to know Bistock from 2010, and that's my
Yeah.
this version was my
Yes, the
only version. So
2010 was similar or completely similar to the 2004, but the 2000, the first one, the 2002 was based on Visio. So you were, yeah, it was. I
Visio.
mean, okay, let's move on. It was something. It came to my mind is
Okay.
like, but if you look another things, one last more, because not from a product but from the way of using a technology, because you can, as you know, you can use and misuse a technology. One of the things that I suppose happened to almost everyone, integrate those APIs, those HTTP API, I don't want to call them REST API, that returns 200 with an error. These kind of things that are always hitting me, and yeah, it's something that is really, I
Usual
found.
great problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but talking about Bistock, I think we are going back now on Bram with Logic Apps. You have been having a lot of content lately about Logic App hybrid deployment, and you have been making interesting content out there, and you are from like one of the first early adapters, would say, jumping into that.
Okay.
So why did you think that this is something interesting, and how do you see that it fits in the landscape
Okay.
and the designs today?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say that I'm a big fan of Kubernetes. So therefore, when I saw that it was possible to run Logic Apps on Kubernetes, I want to understand how it works. So whether it is easy to maintain, if it is easy to scale, and so on. So the first trigger was curiosity. Let me see this new deployment model, how it works. That was the first step. The second step, I am not fan at all about the unit of deployment and unit of scale of Logic App Standard. I don't like it, in the sense like scaling with the app service plan and how you manage the density of the app service plan. I'm not a big fan. So then I was wondering, let me see, by potentially moving the workload to AKS, Kubernetes, not AKS, how this work, if it gives us more flexibility. That it was from my point of view. So why I started looking at it. Of course, from a business point of view, hybrid solution or solution on premises will stay there for a long time for different reasons. So because some industry like I don't know, manufacturing, for example, they have a specific on-premises needs, or if you think about insurances, banks, and all of these things that have mainframes, it never goes away somehow. It's an
Yeah.
It works so well, so it's hard to pull out, I guess.
I think so. I think, and it will enable new type of businesses to jump into that, and hopefully, it will create a new market. And also, I think it will help the developers to understand more about the infrastructure and the hardware of things, because I see a lot of people now don't even understand the new ones who grow up on the cloud. They don't even know that what's behind the scenes is actually servers and CPUs, and like you have to respect that in many time. And
Yeah, yes, true,
which
and
you need to
also
count.
because then when I was digging a little bit, then not only on the technical point of view, you just explore the use cases that can be regulations. So you want to have some integration on premises, and also the very old motto that the integration should run close to the system to integrate, and also that makes this hybrid model allows to have integration close to this on-premises system, but also to, let's say, to give an answer to other kind of vendors that have these hybrid solutions, right? So far, Microsoft with Logic Apps was offering only something that was able to run in the cloud. Of course, you can use ExpressRoute or whatever kind of connectivity to on-premises, but just like to have this sort of feature parity to be achieved will allow
Exactly.
this kind of scenarios and also disconnected potentially scenarios in the future.
What do you see? Because I mean, we are located in Sweden, and in a Swedish perspective, this is something very interesting because there's a lot of businesses, of course, in the government and public sector who has BizTalk now, who hasn't seen the cloud as an option, but now it seems like from what we think is that it brings a lot of attention, but somehow it feels like someone needs to take the first step. Everyone is waiting for everyone else in the Nordics. Is
Yeah.
our point of view, but from your side of things, how is the attention where you are located, and is this something that business is
Is the
picking up?
same story in every country when there are a highly regulated sector like police, to give an example, those and etc. Those kind of business, they really have a needs for local processing, not only, let's say, a residency, but also really stay in your data centers and give you the ability to just plug the cable in case of problems. So yes, so and this kind of hybrid model. So I believe that it all depends on the success of Azure Local, for example, and the possibility to be disconnected. That kind of offering might be very interesting for this type of sectors. Going to the
Yeah.
cloud, now cloud is mature, so those more conservative sector, they can look and take the example of other companies that successfully move their business to the cloud and get confidence. But when there is a regulation, you might be very open to something, but it's a regulation that is blocking, is
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
protecting
Yeah.
you. So
yeah.
it's a difficult discussion.
But how can we as consultants and integration experts help the public to actually understand what this is and how it can help it? What's the answer that we need to? What's the questions that we need to provide answers to?
Ooh, that's that's a difficult question. So the benefits of the cloud are clear. So someone jump into a technology trend or a model if they can get those benefits, and those benefits is instantaneous infrastructure. So you have all of this power at your fingertip. Of course, not of course, I do believe that the Microsoft's cloud is more secure compared to the data center that I might
Server, yeah.
have, except
Yeah,
the one that are in Switzerland under the mountains,
yeah,
those kind
yeah,
of vault. Um,
yeah,
and also performances, security update. So again, the core, it depends how much you value that feature of velocity, performance, and security. And if you have to build all of these things your own, is a huge amount of money. So those
yeah.
are the drivers to move to the cloud, are very the classic drivers since the day one. And then if companies are still reluctant, then there is something else that is blocking them. like revenue.
No, but as you always say, it's the business value and the business what they want. It's still the clients, and I agree with you. I see that it will cost more to have the same scalability if you're gonna have your own servers local, which is it's if the business want that, then yeah.
But still, I mean, what we have encountered in our like webinars and everything is
Yeah.
that I mean, there's always this unsecurity now. But what does this cost? What does this mean if we do it? And what does
Yeah.
this mean if we implement it? It sounds great, but how much does it cost? What's the security? Where's the data? Those kind of questions is something I think that we need to
address.
provide easy answers to. Anyhow, it's not easy, but yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's working with
But there are some
Uh,
applications that are better in cloud. There are some other applications that are better to stay where they are, or there is no business value to migrate. So it's not that everything has to go to the cloud.
yeah. Okay, I do understand. We always like we have our own thoughts, and sometimes also we experiment it, whether it's a new technology or like something that's like old technology. I myself like to do mistakes because that's how I learn. I do mistakes and I learn from them. I know how 100 ways to not do things. Then, but what is your most memorable mistake that you did and in integration, and what did it teach you?
Okay. So as everyone, I learn as well by doing a lot of mistakes. So that's the only way of, or the best way of learning, let's say. Let's take this question from a soft skill point of view, because we talk about a lot of technology. Let's take the other angle. So let's say that years ago, I got a challenge with a very old integration application that was also integrating obsolete applications. So nobody wanted to touch. It was a black box, really no documentation, no idea. But there were a lot of business, a lot of transaction going through this. So sensitive application, nobody wants to touch it. And moreover, it was a summertime, so really everyone was at the swimming pool. So just only the name of that application, people were just starting running away. So my assignment was to assess the application, to understand try to understand what was there, because it was really a black box, how to replatform, what were the risks, and all of these kind of things. So that was I suppose it was before 2018, maybe 2016. I don't really sometimes ago. So then I had zero technical support, so it was just mainly myself. And then I was asking, okay, if nobody cares about the application, why should I care?
Makes sense, yeah.
So then then it was not really a good approach, and actually it was a failing approach. So what I learned, for example, is that let's say leadership is not to follow the crowd. So okay, it's not my problem. So why should I care? It's about let's say focusing, getting the bigger picture, take the responsibility, the ownership of that, of what we are trying to do, even if it is a messy situation, and let's say, and trying to drive the change, even if the others are enjoying the swimming pool. So that's mainly the lessons learned. So always roll up the sleeves and take responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good that's a good approach to it also. But it's a good, I think we all fell on this part one way or another.
Yeah, definitely. And always, if you feel like it's not only is it no one cares, but also, as you mentioned, I mean, first it's a black box. You just like what is this? I don't even know where to start. It's hard to take responsibility, but you know that it works, so you can figure it out.
I think we're reaching our favorite part.
Yes, this is definitely my favorite part, and it's the name of the podcast is Integration Love Stories. So what we want to ask each and every guest is that, do you have a story, a specific project, or a specific knowledge about something that you made like the love for integration spark? So like, what is
Like,
an integration love story that you can tell us about?
So my story, my love for integration started a long time ago in Italy. So where I approach, let's say, bespoke and the enterprise integration patterns for the first time. And let's say one of the things that I love, even if it's a little bit not the best, the most
Romance.
yes, I no, I remember that I liked working at that time with ADI X12 and EDIFACT. That's a really kind of strict business way to exchange, let's say, documents and so on. But is because it was challenging at that time. Also, there were no documentation, only little things. It was at the beginning in Microsoft. You get the challenge to get it done. I mean, and working and tested and roll out. So let's say that experience brought me close to the integration world, and also in that years, Bistrock was emerging. There were not a lot of technical people working on that technology, so it was also challenging and rewarding working on something that was niche. So there were only few people in the Nordics and few people in Italy working on this. So yeah, we were creating the community and
It's nice to feel like you are in a community. Yeah.
Definitely.
But-
But I mean, I must dig into this Edifact thing because it's something that we talk a lot about here
Always.
in because
Yeah.
it's so interesting when you see it the first time. Speaking of black box, and I mean,
Yeah.
when you see it the first time, it says, "How can this even be a message? What is in there is
Yeah.
just signs, or no, not signs. It's just different codes and things." But then all of a sudden, something happens, and you feel like, "Now I can read this. I can read
Yeah.
it like a book."
it's just like Matrix, right? Matrix, the movie.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can see, you can read through the code. Huh?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you get like this error, and you see this Edifact message, and you see like, "I know what this is."
Yes.
That's the issue.
There's a segments. And
You
oh,
can
yes,
you cannot
exactly.
have this this comma, or you cannot do this.
The problem
It's
is
impossible.
when you work for a long time on this kind of project or other project, and then you dream during the night some codes. That's a signal that you have to.
Yeah. That's
Start writing love letters in Edifact. That's not romantic, but yeah, I don't know.
yes. Yeah, I saw something on LinkedIn lately now, and it was they didn't announce the speakers for Integrate 2025,
Yes, some of
and
them
I saw that you will be going. Huh?
coming in.
Yeah, you're gonna be going to speak in Integrate 2025.
Yes, so this year I will be in London at Integrate. I've been there some years ago to Integrate. Always, it's a great community. It's a lovely place to interact with other experts in the sector. Have all of these meaningful discussions. So I'm really looking forward to be there. I will have a session about API management, Microsoft Fabric. So how to do fraud detection with this how to do a possible way to do fraud detection using these two tools.
Yeah.
So I have a long story of love with API management. So I have to bring
Also,
a topic related to API management. Yes.
Yeah.
that's good. That we give a shout out to everyone who will be listening to that to prepare for a love session with
With API
with
management.
API management and Fabric.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, we were there. I mean, we have been there plenty of years, but last year was I think it was the best integrate in a long time, and I always love to go, but last year was
Yeah,
very good. So
it was actually good. I like the stage and everything. It's a really nice experience.
yeah, we're looking forward to actually go there, and as you mentioned, also the community is always nice to meet
Yeah, this-
everyone again. You meet everyone from all over the world, but you have somehow is connected.
The thing is, I have been in some other community events, other communities, and I don't feel these connections, or maybe because I don't belong to the other communities. I don't know. That's my own experience.
Yeah.
But this integration with Azure community is, I feel it's quite close to each other. As you call it the duck.
Yeah, the duck pond. The
The
duck
duck
pond
pond.
is small. We first you start to know everyone from Gothenburg, Sweden, and then you start like Stockholm, Sweden, and then Nordics, and then Europe, and then you talk to someone from Australia, and you see we talk about the same things. We talk about Edifact. We talk about
So the integration community is somehow one that is overall the world. So there is one community, so we know each other. Compared to other kind of communities, if you go in the data community or on the Azure community, those communities are, according to me, more, let's say, regional. So like
Yes, exactly.
you go in the case of Belgium, you go Belgium plus Netherlands and Luxembourg, this kind of things. But there is not a lot. There is not a lot of. There are interaction, but there are not a lot of interaction between Belgium and Spain. To give an example, they are more local.
No.
The same also for data. If you're working with Databricks and things like this, you see this kind of things stays more local. There are super big communities, wonderful communities, but there is this little difference between a single one, the integration, and a lot of multiple communities for other kind of technology.
Yeah, I love our community. I think it's the best, and I'm not ashamed of saying that. I think it's the best.
but actually, I just want to have one question more. I mean, if we take you to London now, you're going on stage in 24 hours. What is things you have to do before you go to stage and speak about your topic?
Having a beer, that's for sure.
Before?
No, not before. No. In the 20. No, I'm okay with.
How do you prepare?
No, yeah, of course, the session, I want to prepare the session properly. I want to deliver the message that I want to make sure that this message is curated, so it's properly done. I hope that people that will join the conference will love my session. That's for sure. So there will be a lot of preparation before the conference. That's always the same. And also when you have this session is the first time I give this session, but when I give session on different conference, every time I change the session and adding something more, removing, make it better or extending the use case. So there is a lot of preparation always, but the 24-hour before everything is done. So it's I'm not feeling really stressed. I just enjoy my journey to the conference place. And of course, before the conference, if you have a live demo, you have to check and if it works fine, and ask the demo god that everything will run smoothly. But yeah, I don't have any particular things that I do except this.
That's good.
That's good. Yeah.
We have one last question, but before we jump to the last question, I'm curious, and I cannot let that go. You have two statues behind you, one of a chicken, I think, and one of I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what is that there.
The chicken. So the chicken is actually I think it's called in English a Guinea fowl or something like this. So it's coming from a place in south of France called Uzès. It's a very nice city in the south of France, and there is a small shop that sell only this kind of birds. So, and I think it's a lovely present. So it's coming.
I think it's nice. I was curious also. I wanted to know what is that, because it looks also.
This is just a Guinea fowl, and then you want to know what is this robot here?
Yeah.
This is
It's a robot.
Yeah, it's an Indiana Jones robot. It's coming from Tekorama. Tekorama is a famous .NET and cloud conference in Belgium. Every year is there, and when you present, when you are a speaker at that conference, they give you this kind of robot as a present to speakers. So it's a themed question. So when I got that one, it was themed on the jungle. This year is on sports. Last year was or maybe years ago was the space. So they have this robot every year that is looks differently,
changing custom. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, see, it's
Very nice.
It's interesting. I see it like you have the rocket and you have the MVP, And
the rocket is one of
chicken.
the symbol of Brussels. So I mean, not because it's coming from I think 1010 and it's a design 1010 and design in Brussels. So it's me being somehow my love with Belgium and Flanders. Let's say that rocket. Then yeah, and then MVP. It's also was a nice achievement.
Yes.
We didn't
Yes, of
even talk
course.
about that. You didn't mention it in your introduction.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm maybe I already know that I talk too much, so I try to limit what I'm
No, you
saying.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really nice conversation. But we still have one last question and
Yeah.
one last challenge. We need you to suggest or shout out to one next guest that you think that we should invite here, and you should challenge the next guest with a question.
So let's invite my great friend Toon van Houten to this show.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but
he is
I will
coming.
send to him a message after this call. And a question for Toon would be, yeah, should we create, for example, an API-based solution on top of messaging? So, or should we continue to use our let's say brokers directly using SDK like Event Grid, Service Bus, or things like this, or would be better to go to have a HTTP interface, API-based interface on top of this?
It's a good question, and it's a really good guest also, because we were about to invite him anyway. So that's good. That's about time.
Yeah.
I really want to also have this conversation with Toon.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
so yeah, that's a good. And we would like to thank you for this. We would definitely have you again after Integrate, or maybe during Integrate. We don't know. We will have the conversation there sometime, and hopefully we'll host you again and talk about your session there, because we're definitely gonna meet there.
Yes.
And thank you for today, and hope also you enjoyed this conversation, and hope see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.